Hello, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. If you are new, welcome to my true crime channel where we discuss wrong-uns of all kinds from all over the world. Today's case involves jealousy, black magic and a terrible betrayal, and it takes place in Luton, England, more specifically on Overston Road inside the home of the Khan family. On the 23rd of May 2016, a much-loved family member is found brutally killed at 11:30 p.m. in the entranceway to their house. Saima Khan was a wife and mother of four, and this killing shocked the family and the local area. It was a seemingly motiveless and brutal, frenzied attack, with the killer wounding Saima with a knife up to 68 times. But who was the killer, and why would anyone so brutally attack an innocent woman for apparently no reason whilst her four children were asleep upstairs? This crime made no sense, and upon their arrival it completely perplexed the police. But it wouldn't do so for long, and once they unmasked the real killer, it sent shockwaves through Luton and across the country. But to understand this case, we need to go back in time and place to Pakistan in the 1990s. There, on the 22nd of February 1990, a girl named Sabah Khan is brought into the world and welcomed by a very close-knit Muslim family, the Khans. But the Khans don't stay in Pakistan for long. They move their three children across to Holland and raise them there. As I said, the family are very close, with one brother and two sisters, but the two sisters, who are 8 years apart, are especially close. Sabah and her older sister Saima, they are inseparable and they go everywhere together. And the family do just fine in Holland. All of the children speak fluent Dutch as well as English. And as much as they are a Muslim family, they aren't totally traditional in that they don't wear hijabs and they aren't hugely religious, but they do follow the same values, and like a lot of families in today's society, they sort of find a middle ground between their traditional Pakistani Muslim background and their westernised way of living. So as I said, they're doing well in Holland, but they realise that they could probably do even better in England. So when Sabah is 18 years old, the family move again, this time to Luton in England. And London suits them well. It's very multicultural and it's not too far from London either, so there's plenty of opportunity there to find work. So everything is going well for the family at their new home in Luton. The two girls, Saima and Sabah, find work as carers to the elderly, and they're still pretty inseparable. They work together and they spend most of their time together too. Soon it comes time for the Khan's eldest daughter Saima to marry, and so a marriage is arranged by their parents to a man just a couple of years older than Saima, named Hafeez Rehman. Hafeez, a taxi driver by trade, has been born and raised in Pakistan, but he's known the family for many years. And after the wedding day, Hafeez moves into the family home with Saima, Sabah, their brother and their parents. Now, as I say, Hafeez was raised in Pakistan, so his culture is not very westernised at all, unlike the sisters who have this merged experience of two different cultures. Hafeez's beliefs are very traditional, and he believes that the husband is to go out to work and make the money for the family, and the wife is to take on the role of homemaker. Now, as we know, Saima has a job, she's a carer, but Hafeez decides that instead of asking her to leave, she can stay in her job so long as she can maintain the home and, when they have children, raise them too. And Saima agrees to this. But now Saima is married, Sabah is a little lost. Her sister has other responsibilities now. Saima and Sabah lived in each other's pockets prior to this. They were known to always be together. They even looked incredibly similar. And Sabah isn't used to this new situation. She's very emotionally reliant on her family. She doesn't really have a circle of friends or a social life. So Sabah decides to plan her future and begins a law degree, but it gets too stressful for her. She isn't someone who can tolerate stress very well, so she quits. Outside of her work, Sabah really doesn't have much going on in her life at all. Her entire world and life experience is inside her house with her family. So Hafeez has moved in and things are going okay. The family get on with him pretty well. He's a chatty guy and he likes to talk, especially to his sister-in-law Sabah. They hit it off well. Sabah has never really had much interaction with a man outside of her own family before, and Hafeez makes the effort to talk to her. In fact, he goes out of his way to talk to her. He especially does so when his wife isn't there, and it's not long before Sabah realises Hafeez is interested in her in a way that one shouldn't be interested in their own sister-in-law. But instead of shutting him down, Sabah can't help but be flattered. She's never had this kind of attention before from a man. She likes Hafeez and his attention makes her feel good, and she reciprocates. And Hafeez, who is 10 years older than Sabah, makes a move to take this relationship further, to the point where the two embark on a secret affair behind Saima's back. It's at this point that I wondered if the reason Hafeez was okay with Saima continuing to work was because that meant she'd be out of the house, making an affair much easier to get away with. And this affair between Sabah and Hafeez continues inside the home, right under the entire family's noses. Bearing in mind this was a house with 3 adult siblings in it, Hafeez and the Khan parents, and yet they still managed to pull this affair off without being caught. And they wouldn't be caught for 4 years. Hafeez is, of course, quite happy with his relationship with both sisters. He seemingly doesn't feel that much guilt that his wife, the mother of his 4 children, was being terribly betrayed. He's so content with his situation that he even goes to the trouble of visiting the imam at the nearby mosque to find out whether it would be acceptable within the Islamic faith to marry Sabah as well as Saima and have 2 wives, but he's told by the imam that it is not permissible to marry 2 sisters. The pair are taking a huge risk in conducting this affair. If the family were to find out about it, it would be, of course, devastating. It's the ultimate betrayal, but that betrayal gets so much worse. In 2012, Sabah falls pregnant with Hafeez's child, and in fear of the affair being discovered, Hafeez insists that Sabah have an abortion, which she reluctantly agrees to go through with. This is very difficult for Sabah. She's infatuated with Hafeez. She thinks he should be her husband, not Saima's. In her mind, this is totally unfair. Why should Saima be allowed to have children and not her? She wants a family. She wants a husband and children. She wants Saima's husband and children. So some time passes, and shortly after Sabah's abortion, Saima welcomes her and Hafeez's 4th child into the home, and that is very hard for Sabah to see. Hafeez and her sister doting around their child and her without her child. It gets to February 2016 and Hafeez's interest in Sabah cools quite a bit. His feelings towards his wife get stronger and his interest in Sabah wanes. The scales tip in favour of his wife and he's paying a lot more attention to her now. And Sabah sees this. She feels this distancing in Hafeez's affections for her, and Sabah doesn't like this at all. Hafeez is her whole world, her infatuation. She's never known a man outside of that house, and the prospect of him not being interested in her anymore is very distressing. She sees Hafeez doting on Saima, her sister who has the perfect life. She has 4 children, she has Hafeez, and it's not fair. Saima has the life that Sabah wants. Sabah is 26 years old at this point. She fully expects Hafeez to leave Saima for her and to take the kids too, so that she can have the perfect life. But now Hafeez is doting on his wife again and paying her less and less attention, and that wasn't her plan at all. And so Sabah, who doesn't deal with stress well at all, is upset. She's angry, and so she texts Hafeez, furious about the attention he's now paying Saima and how she's seemingly been dropped without a second thought. Sabah texts Hafeez saying, "I don't know why you are treating me like this. I don't know why you don't respect me. Nothing in the world can change my feelings for you. That bitch you constantly text 24/7, but me, you don't have time." Sabah is furious Hafeez is paying his wife attention, and she's now hatefully name-calling her sister, who was once her adored sibling. She goes on to say, "If I could, I would take my heart out and show you what you are for me. Nothing in this world can change my feelings for you, not even you. No matter how bad you treat me, it won't change anything. Day by day, my love gets stronger." After receiving all of these texts, Hafeez is panicking. He blocks her on his phone, but she's still obsessed with him, and he's worried that she's going to tell Saima the truth. So he decides the best thing to do is to move the family out and put an end to all of this. And so Hafeez and Saima announce that they are moving out of the family home, and at this news, Sabah reaches boiling point. This really tips her over the edge. Jealousy is blinding her. She's furious that her sister has the life that she wants, with the man that she wants. At this point, it makes no odds who her love rival is, even if it's her own sister. Saima is ruining everything for Sabah, and she has no other choice than to take action. There's no way she's letting Hafeez leave her. She searches online for poisonous snakes for sale and how to hire a hitman for just £200. She looks up how to poison someone. She reads articles with titles such as 16 Steps to Kill Someone and Not Get Caught. The whole time she's researching this stuff, she's constantly refreshing the Facebook page of Hafeez and looking into whether falling in love is allowed in the Islamic faith. This is such a clear picture of what's running through her mind at the same time. But Sabah decides against those options she's looked into and opts for probably the most extreme one of all. In March 2016, Sabah gets in touch with a man in Pakistan. It's not known what this man's name is, other than he's referred to as the Fixer. The Fixer is a witch doctor who claims to be able to cast spells on your enemies in order to bring about their early demise, and this is exactly what Sabah wants. Sabah messages the Fixer with a very specific request. The Fixer agrees to her request and charges her the sum of £5,000 to cast a spell on Saima in order to bring about her death, which Sabah immediately pays. And Sabah waits a few days, but Saima is still alive. The Fixer has yet to uphold his side of the bargain, so she messages him. The way Sabah speaks to the Fixer is quite odd. She refers to herself in the third person. She says, "Sorry to bother you again and again. My friend is really upset now. Hafeez does not even look at her. He says he realises his mistake. You finish off Saima as quick as possible so Sabah can get her Hafeez back." I don't think it will shock you to learn that Sabah does not receive a reply, nor does she receive a return on her investment. The witch doctor, of course, vanishes with Sabah's £5,000 in his back pocket. And this just intensifies Sabah's desperation to sort this situation out. Time is running out. They're moving out in just a few days' time, so there's only one thing for it. If no one else is going to do this for her, then Sabah must be the one to take her sister's life. On the 23rd of May 2016, Sabah's family go to the mosque for an evening funeral, all except for Sabah, Saima and the 4 children. Sabah is at home with the kids and Saima is at work. She's left the house at 10:15 p.m. to visit an elderly client. So whilst Sabah is alone in the house with the kids, she searches online for the typical length of time a Muslim funeral takes, which is between 30 minutes to an hour. If the service is an hour long, she realises she's got some time to herself here. So she then goes to find the large kitchen knife she purchased just a few days ago in her local supermarket. It's around 10:30 p.m. now, and the 4 children, Saima's 7-year-old daughter, her 2 sons aged 4 and 2, and her baby girl are all in bed, and it's at this point that Sabah sends Saima a text. She asks Saima to return home because the baby is crying and she needs her mother, to which Saima at 11:03 p.m. replies, "On my way." Sabah has just given herself the means and the opportunity to commit a terrible act, an act she's been wanting to carry out for some time. This is her one chance to get her sister out of her life once and for all, and she's going to take it. She puts on the black hoodie, black joggers and rubber gloves. She puts the hood over her head, takes the knife from its packaging and positions herself at the end of the hallway, and she stands silently in the darkness, waiting. Where Saima has been working is close to home, so it takes a very short space of time for Saima to arrive at the home at 11:07 p.m. Saima reaches the front door, opens it and switches the light on. 45 seconds later, the light switches off again. Sabah has turned it off from the opposite end of the hallway, plunging them both into total darkness. Then, in an instant, Sabah runs at her sister with the knife and she attacks her, wounding her up to 68 times. It will, of course, have taken a lot less than that to kill her sister, but she couldn't stop. She didn't want to stop, and she doesn't, for 8 minutes. During this 8 minutes, Saima's eldest daughter, aged just 7 years old, shouts to Sabah. She asks, "Auntie, are you killing a mouse?" But Sabah just tells the child to go back to sleep. You would think hearing her niece would bring her out of this murderous trance, but it doesn't. She's completely locked into what she's doing. She then calmly, after killing her 34-year-old sister, moves on to her next task, covering up her horrific crime. First, she smashes a window in the back door and goes around the house emptying out boxes of jewellery onto the floor in an attempt to make the crime scene look like a botched burglary. Next, she gets changed out of her bloody clothing. She takes the clothes, the gloves and the knife and places them into plastic bags and hides them in her bedroom. Then, at around 11:25 p.m, Sabah calls her dad to tell him that she's come out of the shower to find her sister dead in the hallway after being attacked by an intruder. After this, she calls 999 and tells them the same story. But why call her father first? Well, it's thought that she called him first to practice her story. She's forming a narrative that's contrary to what really happened, so she calls her father first to get her story straight before she has to speak to the police. The police turn up to a horrifying scene and they meet Sabah there, who is stood outside. She tells police what happened, how she was in the shower and heard a commotion.
I was at home. So I came home. Yeah, I came home, but then I heard her shouting suddenly, and when I heard her shouting, I just came out. When I came out, it was just her shouting. You didn't hear anybody else? I didn't hear anybody else. I heard banging. When I heard banging, when I came down, I saw her. How long ago was that, roughly? Maybe about half an hour ago. Half an hour ago. Okay. And when I came down, then I rang my dad. I didn't know what to do. First, I was literally there. I just brought her. Did you hear anyone knock on the door or anything like that? No, I don't think so.
Are you aware of anyone else in the house?
I don't think so, no. Okay. Apart from when she came in, I didn't hear anything else before that.
Okay.
And then when she came...
So your belief is that it was just yourself, her and the children?
Me, her and... Where are the children now?
They're still inside, yeah.
Firstly, I just hugged her. I thought when I saw the wounds, I thought I'm going to put pressure to her.
So was the front door open?
No, it was closed.
The door was closed.
The front door was closed.
The back door smashed? How's that happened, do you know?
I don't know, because when I came down, I literally saw her there with glass lying around her. I took a scarf to cover it because I thought I was gonna, you know when you cover the wound and like stop from bleeding.
What have you done to your hand?
She had glass, so I took the glass out, and there was glass everywhere, so I was just hugging it to me, and then I don't know.
Sabah is desperately trying to get her story out to the police. She gives details that the police don't even need to know at this stage. She's in such a hurry to spin her lies. Behavioural experts have watched this footage and pointed out that Sabah is so fixated on telling her story that she forgets to also show emotion, to look sufficiently upset to coincide with the details of the story that she's telling. Partway through, the police ask her how she's hurt her hand. She says she's hurt it helping her sister, but more likely she's hurt it from the top of the blade digging in her hand as she attacked her sister for 8 minutes. So, in the first instance, the police treat this as a botched robbery, a random attack by an unknown intruder. And the police need to move quickly on this because the locals are scared by this event, this botched robbery. They're worried that it could happen to them. As the primary witness, Sabah is interviewed by police, and she tells police that she overheard her sister on the phone to a man that she was having an affair with, and that man had threatened her, so it could have been him that was the attacker. In order to keep the police's attention away from her, Sabah totally invents her sister having an affair. She's willing to ruin the good name of her sister to keep suspicion away from her. And just 3 days after the killing, Sabah goes straight back to work like nothing happened. People do deal with grief in different ways, but to have such an immediate return to normal life must have surprised the police, who were still very present around the family at this time. And the crime scene as a whole doesn't look right to police. It just doesn't look the way an attack as a result of a burglary usually looks. This was clearly a sustained and frenzied attack, more associated with rage rather than a robbery gone wrong. Saima was taken by surprise in that house. They could have just as easily punched her in the face to get past her to leave the home. A burglar wouldn't need to go as far as this killer went. They certainly wouldn't spend 8 minutes of valuable escape time attacking someone who was probably dead in the first 2 or 3 minutes. And the investigation continues. The police go about their usual procedures, searching the home for any evidence that the killer may have left behind. And they find some in Sabah's room. The plastic bags that Sabah had stashed the knife and her clothing in was right there, in her bedroom, for police to find. It's thought that Sabah was so confident the police had believed her story that they wouldn't even search her room, and before she could move it, they found the bag, and it was of course covered in hers and her sister's DNA, as well as glass from where she'd smashed the back window. And 8 days after the killing, Sabah Khan is arrested on suspicion of murdering her own sister. The police begin to question Sabah, and she's adamant she had nothing to do with this. She responds to every question with no comment during 5 hours of police questioning. She also tells her legal team that she's completely innocent. But it isn't looking good for Sabah and her lies, because police, of course, have already found damning evidence in her bedroom, and they're about to find even more. The police find CCTV footage of Sabah in her local supermarket just 2 days before the murder, buying one item: the murder weapon. So they now know that the knife was hers and that she'd bought it 2 days prior for just one reason. The police then access Sabah's phone, and there they find years of texts to and from Hafeez showing they'd been involved in a long-term affair and that their messages had recently become very bitter and angry. The police also find the various internet searches Sabah had made, such as where to buy venomous snakes and her correspondence with the fixer, and it's immediately clear that there's a lot more to this murder than they first suspected. Sabah's guilt is further proven by the fact that there was CCTV in the neighbourhood that night. The neighbours had positioned their CCTV on their driveway, but from that angle you could also see the Khan's house, and the footage from that night clearly showed Saima entering the front door of the house at 11:07 p.m. and turning the hall light on. It shows that 45 seconds later it was turned off, and it remains off, with the hallway in darkness for just over 8 minutes whilst the attack was taking place. There was no sign of an intruder getting in the house at any point or getting out. Whoever attacked Saima was already in the house and at no point left the house until finally the door was opened that night, and it was Sabah who came out of it to meet police. Sabah this whole time continues to stick to her story, adamant that she'll be pleading not guilty at trial, but she soon realises that the police have a very strong case against her, and it's just getting stronger. So Sabah eventually decides to come clean to her legal team and admits it, and then she in turn pleads guilty to the killing of her sister Saima. On the 23rd of October 2017, a court hearing takes place at the Old Bailey. Because Sabah's pleaded guilty, there's no need for a trial. So at no point does Sabah have to give anyone, including her family, an explanation about what she did. The hearing, of course, presents all of the damning evidence against Sabah: the knife, the CCTV, the emails and text messages to Hafeez and to the fixer. It's clear who was responsible for this murder. But it's not just Sabah's character that is taken into account in this hearing. The opportunity is also taken to look into the character of Hafeez, who, although he could never have predicted what would have happened here, certainly played a crucial role in all of this. Hafeez originally told police that Sabah was responsible for everything. He said that she started this affair, and when he tried to end it, she wouldn't allow it. He was forced to stay with her. But it was pointed out that Hafeez was not the victim that he was claiming to be in all of this. Sabah's legal representative said that Hafeez was an older, more experienced man who took full advantage of a young, inexperienced, emotionally vulnerable young woman. Not only this, but they noted that Hafeez had also been with other women in Pakistan whilst married to Saima, and he had also warned off a potential suitor of Sabah's because he wanted her all to himself. They said that he took advantage of and enjoyed having, quote, exclusive rights with both sisters. Given that Sabah had pleaded guilty, it was just a case of sentencing her, and the judge on the case told Sabah, "Not only did you intend your sister to die, but this was no spontaneous event. You enticed her to come home from work so that the killing could be carried out. You killed your sister in her own home with her children upstairs. Further, you suggested falsely that your sister had been engaged in an illicit affair with another man." The judge also acknowledged that Hafeez's hands were not clean on this, and that he had been somewhat manipulative during their affair, which had admittedly caused Sabah, quote, some difficulty in her personal life. Psychiatric reports showed that Sabah was emotionally unstable and had a form of depressive disorder, but this wasn't sufficient enough for her legal team to use it as a defence. After the hearing, the judge sentenced Sabah Khan to life imprisonment with a minimum of 22 years, to which Sabah showed no emotion. The only emotion she showed throughout the hearing was when she cried as her affair with Hafeez was laid out in detail. Hafeez didn't attend the hearing, but he did have an impact statement read out in court. It read, "I feel complete shame about having an affair with Sabah. I have 4 beautiful children, but I've lost my world and I cry every day. Saima was there for all 4 children. She did everything. There are so many questions which will be left unanswered. The ones who are suffering the most are my children, as they have lost the most important woman in their life, their mother." And so Sabah was taken away to spend her minimum of 22 years in jail. But Sabah did later appeal her sentence in May 2018. Her lawyers argued that her minimum jail term was too harsh and should be reduced. They said the fact that she pleaded guilty, was relatively young and had previous good character should be taken into consideration, also the fact that she'd since shown remorse. But 3 appeal judges said that this was an horrendous and brutal murder. They said, "We are not persuaded that the minimum term imposed by the sentencing judge was manifestly excessive," and so they dismissed her appeal. The earliest Sabah Khan will be released is 2039. She'll be 49 years old. The house the Khans lived in went up for sale not too long after this terrible crime took place, but I'm sure that whilst they may have moved on physically, I can't imagine they'll ever move on mentally or emotionally. This family lost not 1 but 2 daughters as a result of this, and that must have been incredibly traumatic for all of them. This case was particularly shocking because Saima was completely innocent in all of this, and yet it was her life that was taken, and her children that have had to suffer, and that's what's so tragic. There is a chance that Saima never actually knew who was attacking her that night because Sabah had her hood up and the hallway was in complete darkness, and I think in one way perhaps that might be for the best, that she never found out that she was the victim of the ultimate betrayal. And that's it. I hope you found this case interesting. If you did, please leave me a like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. My Twitter handle is down below in the description box if you'd like to follow me over on there too. Have a great day, stay safe, have a fantastic Christmas and a very happy new year, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.